Silas TP. I'm dead as fuck, no. No, no, I'm not dead. He's not dead, guys. What the fuck was that play? Hello YouTube, Azzapp here, the vel'koz guy, and I've been vel'koz challenger on pretty much every server I've played, including North America with high ping. And today I'll be trying to teach you how to play Vex, because ever since release I've been spamming her, testing all the variety, builds, options, ideas, how to play around with her, and she's actually quite an intricate champion. So it might not be easiest to recognize what is a really good Vex player and what is not. So I'm going to try to teach you how to recognize those subtle ways and how to actually use them to your advantage. After some grueling testing, I've made this guide. It's been very difficult to get Vex actually on live. She has almost 50% ban rate, even though her win rate is 49%. She's not broken, but people don't really know how to play against her. So they're very afraid. And they don't understand her. So you can have decent success on Vex if you know what you're doing. And she's slightly better than other mages, I would say, because she provides utility even if she's behind. This is a challenger mid lane Vex guide and everything you need to know about her. If you enjoy these types of videos, be sure to let me know and drop a comment, like, and tune into stream. There are two very key things to keep track of when you play Vex, and that is passive, because she heavily depends on the passive, much like vel'koz. Very interesting mechanics there. And the comboing, because you're going to have to play your combos in optimal accordance to the situation. So Vex is a very unique champion, and she fills this very niche role. She does a lot of different things, but she doesn't quite excel at any of them. And depending on how the game goes and what the game win condition is, you might try to shift your playstyle a little bit, because you can play as an assassin if you get ahead. You can play as a regular control mage, which she doesn't do too good of a job at because her Waveclear isn't super strong and she doesn't have insane AoE abilities. Or you can play her as a disruptor, which I think is the most impactful role. You're gonna start the game in omnidirectional manner, and then you're gonna, depending on the game state, you're gonna try to specialize for one of those things. I will be showing all of the combos that you will utilize and how to manage your passive and all the builds and runes and everything, so stay tuned. First playstyle, the most fun one to play, is the assassin. You generally go into assassin if you get quite ahead, or they have a lot of squishies and you can operate around the map. You have decent map pressure, your team is not super weak, they have a lot of support for you. Then you go into the assassin vein and you try to execute. You have to make sure you execute with the ult to get the reset, because your team will depend on you for damage in that case. It's a fairly high impact role, but also punishes you quite well if you misplay it. Are you fucking kidding me, man? I missed my ult again. Okay. Secondary one, the control mage one, is the least impactful one because control mages are absolutely terrible in this season. You just provide that front to back fight. You will depend on your teammates quite a lot there, but you just have to manage your fears and try to defend your back line. And then at the end of the day, you can go win if you see an opportunity with your ult. And the third one is Disruptor or Initiator, where you have hyper carries in your team already. You can opt in for a more utility-oriented build, where you go into the back line, initiate with that fear, and then you're gonna have to Zhonya's to reset your combo. Then you can get another rotation of your spells. You're gonna do Everfrost. You're gonna buy a lot of time and prepare like a winning setup for your team. That one requires decent macro knowledge, where you will know where team can follow up and engage and win the fight, or you know that you're stronger, or you know that they have a split push who's kind of late to the party because you manage prio better than you start a fight. So let's go in and I'll try to show you some combos and passive management, and I'm going to show you the best builds, runes, and everything. Okay, so if you enjoyed that play that I showcased at the beginning, that is pretty much the best play of Vex I've ever seen or made. And the fact that makes it better, that was recorded in super high elo challenger. That was done in the US right now during the World's Bootcamp, which makes it quite a lot better. And it basically showcases everything Vex can do. You have to join the fight at an optimal time and then look for those resets and just try to be very aware of what is going on, because you might get those resets. Okay, first thing I'll show you is the general Waveclear pattern. So let's say you have these abilities. You will be maxing either Q or W depending on the matchup. But let me show you this thing. So a lot of people will do this. So they're gonna get Q and they're gonna Waveclear with Q. Okay? You Waveclear with Q, whatever. is the cheapest ability you have, and it does a really nice splash onto the wave. So what happens then is, look at my passive. I turned off the auto cooldowns here. So look at my passive. It's like the next wave is already here. My passive is not there. It's really, really bad, because if you just clear with Q, you don't really get your passive back. So to utilize your E is the most important thing. So if you're doing a wave clear, you will be clearing with E into Q. Okay? That's gonna very, very often clear the entire backline. I don't even have items. So at level 7, you can clear the entire backline, generally. So what happens with my passive? It's almost already back up. So this reduces the downtime, much like saving one vel'koz W, reduces the downtime and the weak play, the weak state of you in between the waves. So if there's an imminent skirmish happening, if you clear with Q, you're horrible in a fight. But if you do this, because proccing your passive will bring back your cooldown. See, you hit every minion that has your E, and you want to hit as many minions as possible with your E. And now, if there's a fight on the side, look, you're already ready. You're already ready to fight. Boom, you're there. You're there to follow up. You can follow up over the wall here on the raptors. You can follow up in the river. Vex is a very nice utility character. She's very good at roaming to sides and roaming to lanes. But the thing hindering her is the wave clear, because she doesn't have the best wave clear. So in order to be a really good player, you're going to have to master how to clear with Vex. Because you want to get that passive back up and you want to have prio as much as possible. But she's very, very mana hungry, so it won't be really easy. That makes the Lost Chapter very, very nice first purchase. Okay, onto the combos into the lane. How do you want to initiate fights? So as I said, there's two maxing orders. If you're playing melee versus melee assassins, you max W first. And the easiest thing you can do is enemies move up to farm, okay? I can maybe throw in some examples from real games that I did versus high elo players. So they're going to walk up to auto attack the wave. And what you're going to do is W into fear and then an EQ to proc the passive again. Okay, that is your best combo you have versus melees. That is quite literally the best combo you have. But it's very difficult to initiate versus mages and ranged characters. Your fear. Good trade. Mages will out-mage you, because Vex is investing in a lot of different things at the same time. But she's a better assassin than mages. And she's a better initiator and disruptor than mages. So you're going to have to play very, very clever. And versus mages, you're going to max Q to obviously manage waves better. And versus mages, the combo goes, E is fairly easy to land. It is a bit slow like vel'koz E, but that is your initiation tool. So you're going to have fear, and then you're going to E into Q. And then if you can walk up, do the W. That will negate the return fight because you get a shield. Plus you also do extra damage. And you might be able to gap close because they are slowed while they're feared. Who lied to me about a word? Oh my! Okay, I chose this clip specifically to showcase two things. The first one is the longer engage with the E, obviously to set up the fear, to slow them, so you can get an initiation. But the secondary one is the little known thing about your fear. Your fear actually pushes them away from the origination of ability. So the place where ability is cast, that's where they get fear from. On your Q and W, it doesn't really matter, but on E, it does. So if you can shoot the E, shoot it behind them to push them towards you to get that instant range into W, as you can see on the core key. Okay, so when you do assassinations, you have to land ult. If you don't land ult, you get extremely punished. No resets, no damage, you can't assassinate, you're not in the fight. Okay, she's extremely dependent on her ult in fights. So you have to make sure you land it. Going for tricky shots is probably not your best option, so you have to be very, very careful. The ideal play you can do is have like a pink ward fake a roam, because they're gonna panic and then try to shove, and then their movement is kind of predictable, then you go in with the ult. And when you ult, the best combo you do is this one. You go in, double immediately into EQ, okay? So, I don't know if that was really fast, but the idea is, once you land the ult, you're gonna follow it up. Now, there's shenanigans there, but you generally just follow up immediately because they're gonna panic after. Unless you're really waiting for the passive. So what you're going to do, as soon as you go in, you immediately proc your passive with a W, because it's instantaneous, no cast time. That gives the fear instant, makes the fear instant, gives no counterplay to enemies. So you fear into EQ. And that is your biggest damage burst. That is the biggest spike. Now why I said about ult is you really, really need it, because if you can't kill with that combo, that puts you in an extremely vulnerable spot. And that's where it comes. You're either assassin, 100 to 0 with ult, get a reset, and then your value exponentially increases in that fight. Or the second variant is disruptor. You find a good engage, and then you're gonna do the same exact thing with the E fear, or with the W fear EQ, and then you're gonna Zhonya's. That's it, because you're so dead after that. You're absolutely useless after that. But later on, you're gonna have decent CDR, and when you max this, you will be able to use 2 Ws per team fight. That gives you a lot more sustainability, makes you more consistent in fights, and Zhonya's is a key item for that. The key takeaway here is manage your passive. You really have to manage your passive. Do not use, if there's one minion, don't use an ability to clear, because you're gonna waste your passive. Do not use ability to clear. And then you don't even have more minions to siphon the thing. If you don't really need the hard shove, and you're low on mana, don't spam it, because you won't have E to get the passive back up. And the more passive you waste, the less valuable you are in potential fights, which in competitive you can kind of predict when fights are going to happen, but in solo queue it's too damn random. You need to keep the uptime high on that. So you never know when the good fight will arise. There's only third option which I didn't discuss. We talked about W versus melees, E versus mages, and there's a Q fear proc. Q fear proc is the least valuable one. Okay, so the scenario would be enemies there safely farming, your teammate is coming for a gank, and you obviously can't reach the enemy, you don't have ult, let's say. The only play you can do is Q into fear, into E to slow. And that maybe gives a chance for your teammate to follow it up, because Q is your longest range ability. So that's the only reasonable play I would imagine you using Q to fear. You just generally don't do it. Even when it's minions and you have the fear, you E first, provided you have mana. You E first because you get the procs, and look at the passive. Fully back up. Okay? If you want to know any more details or watch very intricate matchups, very specific matchups, we won't have time for that obviously here, but I'm on stream all the time, every single day. You can come in, ask me anything, and I'll try to help you out. Maybe I'll even work on a mobile guide depending on how many people care about this. And yeah, I'm gonna show you now the builds and the runes and everything you want to know outside the game, but these are some general combos, and if you remember these, like, trust me, you're gonna do really well. Other than that, it's just minor optimizations on how you weave the combos and specific matchups, and knowing the game knowledge, which is every mage champion requires game knowledge. Like, they're extremely dependent on it. This is the combo one more time. That is the full combo one more time. RRWEQ. And that's all guaranteed, by the way. If you land the first R, it's all guaranteed. You can almost not fuck it up. Okay, this is the Vex item build. You're gonna start with the Dorans. And 2 potions, obviously. What we talked about in there is she's extremely mana hungry. This helps you out, it really helps you out. Deviating from this is probably not the best option. Some matches melee auto attacks can really punish, so starting Doran's Blade is not horrible. You can auto attack melees, but I think W damage and EQ is fairly sufficient, so having more mana probably gives you more damage versus assassins. Okay, so you go Lost Chapter into the core, which is Ludens. Okay? Now, I talked about a different variant, which is Everfrost, and I'll explain all of them. Liandrace is a honeypot, it's a bait, do not go Liandrace, it's absolutely terrible. Everything else is suboptimal. There is a Rocket Belt potential play, which gives you a bit more engage, but it's completely unnecessary, provided you land your ults. It's absolutely unnecessary, and this gives you way more damage. Why you're going Ludens in the first place is because she benefits extremely well, unlike vel'koz, she benefits extremely well from magic penetration. Her base damage is fairly high, even on passive and other abilities. So you don't necessarily need too many items to deal a lot of damage, but you gotta capitalize on that magic penetration. So Sorc Shoes into Ludens gives you an insane burst. And if you're very cocky, you can do this, and that counts as a legendary item. It also gives you more magic penetration. So if you get this 3-item, cheap 3-item spike, and you play really well, like, you're insane. Because if you can stay out of the harm's way and not die and just choose when you engage, which you can generally if you're really good on Vex, you can choose when to fight. So another core item is obviously Zhonya's, as I talked about, gives you another reset. Even if they don't have too many AD characters, Zhonya's has super high value. Like, let's say they're playing versus Fizz. Zhonya's is perfect. Absolutely perfect. You can deny his fish, and it also gives you a full reset in teamfights. So yeah, don't be scared about that. Like, even versus Syndra, you can still go Zhonya's, because versus Syndra you'll be running Cleanse, and then you're gonna get Zhonya's, and then you can absorb her ult with the Cleanse Zhonya's when you get stunned, and then you also, if you engage, you get another reset. Like, Zhonya's is very, very good, and you're generally taking it for utility. So stopwatch, if anything, just buy stopwatch for key team fights before dragons or barons. Everfrost variation is the more utility one, where you don't really need to hard carry, because remember, you are giving up magic penetration here. You get decent AP, decent haste, everything is fine, but you're basically trading more initial burst damage for more lockdown. So you do that generally when your team is all right and you have hyper carries and you're playing more of a disruptor role. So that's that synergy. After this, if you're going to the assassin, you generally want to get Horizon Focus, and this is just the best burst you can get. Like, these items give you insane burst, absolutely insane burst, and a little bit of an underrated thing is you get vision by hitting enemies. Okay, so if you hit someone with a Q earlier and they go into the fog of war, you're still seeing them. That way you can land the ult from very long range away. Those are good ults because a lot of people won't keep track of this and they won't know they're spotted, so ults are pretty much guaranteed, then you follow it up and your Q cooldown is fairly low anyway. That cap is very cool, that cap is good, it requires a lot of money, very difficult purchase as I talk in other guides. You obviously get it if you can, but if they're starting to build a lot of MR, Void Staff takes precedent because it's a lot cheaper and gives you immediate spike. That feels like a very, very good build. Cosmic Drive also feels decent on her, but it's not an insane item. It's not an absolutely insane item. I would value more initial damage burst here, or just utility and safety. So in that case, you can even get Banshees later on. And if you're feeling really, really cocky, Lichbane is super fun. It's super, super fun, and you can proc it twice per fight at least, because you're gonna do the Zhonya's in between. So that also gives you a bit of movement speed, which she benefits off of greatly, and she gets decent damage. So that's kind of all the optional. The core is Lost Chapter, Ludens into the Horizon Focus, and Zhonya's, depending on how safe you want to get. I mean, Zhonya's second is also cool. If you're playing versus full AD comps, do not hesitate to go Zhonya's first, okay? Versus full AD comps, they have Zed, Kha'Zix, Fiora top lane. Get Zhonya's, you don't care. You don't care, rush Zhonya's immediately. Your base damage will still do a lot, but you will be unkillable. And that's just super, super value in the team. So they're gonna have to think when they go in. If they go in, they're gonna lose the game by themselves, honestly. You won't even have to make plays, they're just gonna suicide. This is the most assassin rune page you can get. And this is probably one of the most fun one. Actually, the most fun one would be with Dark Harvest. This is when you take when you're cocky, when you really, it's riskier, less damage than Electrocute, but higher potential. Especially for resets. So this is one when you take when you're super cocky. You know, you wanna style on them. Electrocute is the norm, kinda, in higher elo when you play decent matches and you still wanna have a kill chance, you go Electrocute, because you won't get too many stacks on Dark Harvest. That is pretty solid. Now there's another variant, because right now, let's say Tryndamere is a super S tier champ, and he's a mid lane character who actually beats you, and he will crush you on Vex. So what you play for there is just pure safety. You go with a Phase Rush. Phase Rush is a more safe variant. You take that because you can fairly easily proc it, and you take this versus certain melees you're afraid of, and you need that spacing to run away from them. So how that would go is you can even get this for even more movement speed or mana, because you really need mana. That is the option. Transcendence has super high value on Vex, and now here you can go either way, but if you're taking this, you're probably playing a more safe manner, so you don't go Scorch. You will either take for roaming or late game damage, whichever one you want. And here, because again you're afraid of them, Resolve. You can Shield Bash Bone Plating seems alright. You can get that cheeky damage from Shield Bash Bone Plating, stops them from one-shotting you, or you can go even this more safe variant. You get heal and shield power and more defense. So that makes you fairly difficult to kill, and this is more utility approach again. Attack speed is pretty much the norm. You will be auto-attacking a lot. Even versus mages, it's solid because it helps you fix the low wave clear. But versus assassins, it's really good because you're going to be doing most of the damage with auto attack. A lot of the time you will be approaching the fights with auto attacks because you don't want to waste your abilities. They won't be able to hard wave clear because if they come, you're going to W them. But you don't want to cast abilities to waste the fear. So it will just be this game of chicken, and you'll never be using your W until they're in range. And you're just going to be punishing them with auto attacks. And if they go for a minion, W EQ. And then you instantly win the trade. The only thing I didn't talk about is the spells here. I found that barrier and heal aren't the best. I didn't really get insane benefit from them. You generally die either way if you're mispositioned. You just have to rely on good positioning and utility better. So teleport gives her insane playmaking and fixes for her kind of weak wave clear. So I think TP is the norm. But in lower elo, a lot of people misuse TP and they don't really know how to play with it. So I wouldn't really recommend teleport up until diamond or something like that. Ignite is really good. Ignite is good because it really fixes your damage. Giving you a little bit of extra damage can be so powerful because it can cross over the threshold for execution and a reset. And that's just phenomenal. Cleanse versus heavy CC matchups, as we talked about. Ignite for the assassinate, for extra damage in trying to solo kill. TP for game control, map presence, and potentially game flanks into engages or helping your bot lane getting resets. It can be massive. So I don't really want to drag this video out too long. That is everything you pretty much need to know right now to be a very, very successful Vex player. If you have any questions, hop on the stream, ask me. I'm always there interacting with the chat. We're chilling. I'll be playing way more Vex these days, and maybe I'll work on some more specific stuff versus specific matchups, because we obviously won't go into that here. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it'll help. See you on stream. Peace. Silas TP. I'm dead as fuck, no. No, I'm not dead. He's not dead, guys.